Hey guys, David here with a new review for the latest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. entitled Watchdogs. I'm getting so tired of a lot of shows, mainly shows, but a lot of properties just taking something dogs, sleeping dogs, watch dogs, both this episode and the video game. Then we got a show called Mad Dogs. We got a movie coming out with Jonah Hill and Miles Teller called War Dogs. I love dogs as much as the next person, but come on with a new title. Anyways, so this episode showed me that maybe this wasn't the best week for television, alright? Because the two shows that I'm currently reviewing both decided to get together and say, you know what, let's take it easy this week. Let's not do anything that big or anything that significant, because I thought that this episode, when it boils down to it, was a little bit of a filler episode. Because this week we have Mac joined by his brother along with the rest of the S.H.I.E.L.D. team taking on this new terrorist group called the Watchdogs, which are basically this militant group that's rising to hate against Inhumans, which was actually mentioned a couple episodes back by Daisy during her little altercation with Lincoln about whether or not there should be a cure. She did mention these Watchdogs, so they've been on the scene for some time, and this episode highlights them. So the team decides to investigate who is behind these Watchdogs, and it's revealed that it's actually Blake. I can't remember his first name, but his name is Blake, played by Titus Welliver, I think Titus Welliver, who's currently on this show on Amazon called Bosch, and I hear it's really good, and it's one of those episodes that's on my list to check out. One of those shows that it's on my list to check out. And he returns into the Marvel Cinematic Universe because I believe, I might be wrong about this, but I think he was in the first Thor movie. I think he was in the background somewhere there, and he was more predominantly in the first season of S.H.I.E.L.D. before he was supposedly killed by Deathlock, which I could have sworn he was just flat out killed. And then in this episode they said, oh no, he wasn't killed. He was actually sent to the hospital with a broken back, and now he returns to lead the Watchdogs, which I found kind of interesting, only for the twist to be that this was simply just a ploy by Hydra so that they can get weapons for the actual Blake, who he is alive, but he is regardless incapacitated and rendered to a wheelchair. And I found this payoff to be just slightly kind of weak, because I would have been fascinated by this Watchdogs group if they were just a separate group that had nothing to do with Hydra and were a legitimate hate group that's rising to take down Inhumans, because that's the kind of world that we live in. I love the relevancy of this group because we've had it before in the past in history, and we can have it now here with racist. And this is the kind of thing that would happen should aliens and humans be introduced to the real world. And I would have appreciated that more. So for it to be just another tentacle of Hydras, it's a little been there, done that. How many times do we see something that is brewing in the background, and the S.H.I.E.L.D. team is like, what is this? And then it turns out it's just more and more Hydra. We've done that a couple of times. Now, could this group, Watchdogs, become its own thing based on that stinger where Blake comes out on the wheelchair and says, hey, we had a deal, and Guerrera provides him with what appears to be a nuke or some kind of weaponry? And could this mean that maybe the Watchdogs will then sanction off of Hydra and be its own thing and become that group that I want it to be? Possibly, but for this episode, they were kind of weak, in my personal opinion. Then going to Mac, this was a very Mac-centric episode, and it involved his brother. And even though I appreciate them trying to flesh out Mac's character, being that he's one of my more favorable characters when it comes to this new team that arose in Season 2, and I definitely like seeing how the focus is being rendered onto him after seeing Hunter and Bobby depart the team from last week's episode, it was a little bit of a shame that they gave him this story that's rather cliche with the brother, where the brother doesn't know what he does, and then later on the proverbial shoe's gonna drop and he's gonna find out, he's gonna be angry at him, but then once he sees him in action, he's gonna be like, oh, that's what he does, okay, I'm cool with it now. And then since we have a hate group, it's only convenient that the brother is siding with the hate group, so there's gonna be some kind of tension there. And it's stuff that I've seen countless times before. And the only thing that was different to me was the brother not dying, because I was fully prepared for the brother, I believe his name is Ruben, to get killed off by the Watchdogs there at the end during that house siege scene that I thought was pretty cool. Although I will admit that it was a little disappointing that the show is a very PG rated show that's on the ABC, because otherwise we would have had some better scenes with that shotgun axe. It's cool to see that Mac finally got his shotgun axe. But sadly, it was very underwhelming because of the fact that it's supposed to be a cleaner show. This isn't Deadpool, so we can't see him taking out legs and arms and heads off and blood splattering everywhere with that shotgun axe. So instead, you have to settle for some sanitized shots of that, literally shots of that. But anyways, the only thing that I thought was different and not following the beaten path of this whole story was the brother actually surviving by the end. So that whole thing didn't pay off very well when it came to the Watchdogs and Mac and his brother's connection to the whole thing. But the episode did have some highlights that I genuinely liked. I liked that Coulson was pretty much the cipher for the audience, saying, hey, you know what? I know all of these other people. We've had a chance to get to know all of them and develop their characters. Now let's develop Lincoln a little bit. Let's take him on and give him some tests to figure out whether or not he can fit in with the S.H.I.E.L.D. team. Because ever since season 2, Lincoln has been kind of just there. When it comes to an actual character to develop, he hasn't really done much. So I really hope that these are the baby steps to fleshing out his character a little bit more and make him just a bit more interesting instead of just being the spark plug that's able to use lightning to his advantage. Seeing him pull off that move of listening to Coulson's orders, but to a certain extent to where he's gonna incapacitate Blake more so than he actually is interesting and a nice beat for the character. And on the other side, I like back at HQ, I like that May and Simmons are teaming up to kind of create this renegade mission to hunt down and kill Lash, despite this being May's ex. I like the reasons for the two of them wanting to go out there, kind of like a whole like, should I have not done that, people who wouldn't have been killed. A similar theme that's going on in another show that I'm currently reviewing, which I always found to be a very interesting concept, just as long as it's executed well. So besides that, when it boils down to it, I feel because of the fact that we took a break, I think now for like 2 episodes away from Hive, away from Malik. I mean, Malik was in last week's episode, but he was more so in the background because of how much of the focus was on Bobby and Hunter, and Hive has been completely out of the picture for the past 2 episodes, that I think it's about time that we go back to him and figure out what his grand plan is and actually start to take the steps to execute that plan, because I feel like we're starting to hit that point where we're starting to see why shows should not be 22 episodes long. So I give Watchdogs a low 7 out of 10. I know it's somewhat of a weak score and a little bit of a blemish on S.H.I.E.L.D's tracking record so far, since it's been a pretty good record up until this point. But I feel like this episode is a clear example as to why shows shouldn't need to be this long. So anyways, let me know what you guys thought of this week's episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen within the remaining, I think we got 7 episodes. It's still got a while, so there are some opportunities there for some great episodes, but just the same, there's the possibility of more filler episodes to run that time. But hopefully those filler episodes could still be good as long as they're executed well and there's interesting things happening within the team. And the only reason why I didn't give it this episode a 6 is because the stuff with the brother, as cliche as it may have been, it was treated really well with a good performance by the actor who played the brother. And it's Mac. He's always going to be badass. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.